Just far south enough of Interstate 10 to escape the noise, the Caverns of Sonora sits quietly atop a hill, stretched in the Great Divide between the Texas Hill Country and the Chihuahuan Desert. I've been to a lot of tacky visitor centers on the road before, but I actually kinda liked this one. It just felt right for a cave. Also, it had this giant thing, which I thought was a taxidermied peacock until I got close to it and it looked at me. Actually, it's one of 4 of them that just kind of live here. So, that was cool.
Except for the rails. This is like, Houston, Beaumont, humid. So this cave was formed differently than a lot of caves that you see. This was actually formed by groundwater being in the limestone through cracks and fissures, and there's a major fault line that's probably 2 million years old that runs through most of the cave. So as the groundwater was sitting in the limestone, the hydrogen and the sulfides from our oil and gas deposits below mixed with the groundwater and actually dissolved the limestone away.
Really?
Yes. And then once the water level receded, then surface water percolated down through the limestone, picked up calcium deposited on the walls as calcite. So all the formations that we're going to see are made from calcite.
Gotcha. The cave was discovered in 1905 by a rancher after his dog chased a raccoon into the cave. The original entrance to the cave that you can see here is just about raccoon-sized, and the first explorers of the cave had to create their own entrance. After an expedition in 1955 revealed the true extent of the cave, it was renamed from Mayfield Cave to Caverns of Sonora and opened to the public 5 years later in 1960. Today, the land is still privately owned and operated by the same family. This naturally flat area near the entrance was nicknamed the picnic area after early explorers would break to eat lunch here. This formation here was once timed to drip once every 3 hours. Someone called it what?
Pasta noodles.
Pasta noodles. No, that's bacon. I see bacon.
This one does drip quite frequently.
Because the original entrance was so small, especially compared to places like Bracken or Carlsbad, Sonora was never home to bats or other cave wildlife. Additionally, with over 95% of its features still growing, Sonora is considered one of the most active caves in the entire world. It isn't a growth that any of us will ever live to see, but on a geological timescale, many of the formations in these halls are as thriving as can be.
But in its pure form. The other colors that we're seeing, these browns and tans and slightly reddish colors, is when the rainwater hit the surface and either hit an oak motte, cedar break, bare rock, whatever it happened to filter through. It picked up humic and fulvic acids that act like a stain, or the lack thereof if there was no ground clutter or leaf litter. So depending on what it filtered through, it deposited those colors here when it deposited the crystals.
Okay, so calcium itself is the pure white, and then everything it picked up on the way down here is what gives it the color.
Exactly.
Okay.
Other than this one here, which is almost pure, but it's white because there are air bubbles trapped in it.
Gotcha.
Right through here.
These spikeball-looking formations are formed from what's known as convection corrosion. When cold air sinks and warm air rises throughout the cave, it creates a tiny stream of air current that we can't feel, but that corrodes calcite away over time. Small bits of calcite hanging near the top of these formations are broken off by the air current and drip down and redeposited at the bottom. Over time, they build up into popcorn formations on the bottom of stalactites that look like spike balls. These small but incredible formations here look like stalactites growing sideways out of the walls. They're called Helectites, and they're so rare that the first picture of them on Wikipedia is actually from the Caverns of Sonora. Different ideas have been suggested for how they could be formed, including convection current or capillaries in the rocks. But, quote, "To this day, there has been no satisfactory explanation for how they are formed." This entire wall of them here is mind-bending to look at in person. But they're not the only or even the most impressive ones here.
Exactly when it happened, but that it did happen after the formation of the popcorn and the coral. It does flow over the top of all of it, down through there, wherever it went out.
This body of water is Horseshoe Lake, and you can see about a third of it here. It actually stretches underneath the wall to the left and pops out the other side. The greenish tint to the water is actually a natural side effect of sitting against the rock undisturbed for so long.
Cannot form underwater.
Really? Well, actually, yeah, I guess that makes sense because they're formed by dripping. Although I'm surprised there isn't some other way to form one of these strange-looking things underwater.
There is, and we'll see it.
Oh, really?
This part obviously is fully active that we're seeing.
Oh yeah, there's the other half of Horseshoe Lake.
And I like to point out here, this is a good example of how much calcite can actually keep from our limestone base. And then just pure calcite that builds up through here.
Wow. Yeah, this thing right here is bizarre. How does that? That just looks like...
Just a lot of, it's kind of like a flow stone going at the same time trying to form a stalagmite. So it's just so much water that it's kind of overwhelming itself.
Yeah, it looks molten. So this guy right here is ceiling to floor and about that far away from touching.
Kind of watch that guy right there. Whoa. Or this one really does it well too.
That's amazing. See, that's Davy Crockett right there. That's kind of awesome. Okay, so they blasted this whole tunnel out and they came out right here.
Here, and here a bunch of water gushed out when they blasted through. And they call this the surprise room because you can actually see where the water level was across here. And they know the water was here for a long time because dogtooth spar, this formation that you see here, these little diamonds or pyramids, only can form underwater. So given enough time in Horseshoe Lake, if it stays underwater long enough, it will change into this dogtooth spar. And this dogtooth spar at one point will change back into different, more like popcorn.
That's amazing. That's so rigid. It is like diamonds.
That one does look, yeah, I see it, you're right.
Yeah, it looks like a jaw.
They tied through here. And this light switch does not work.
Yeah, because right here, the way it all, it's just a whole line of them, and there's another big one right here. That's where the crack in the rock is. That's where all the water comes from. It's why it's a straight line.
Versus here, where the popcorn is, it's just coming through the little capillaries in the stone.
Mm-hmm.
This has an actual crack.
Yeah.
Perch on her bird bath. See the Corinthian room.
The formation you see here, one of the most widely revered Helectite formations in American caves known as the Butterfly, used to look like this. However, in 2006, a visitor to the cave unexpectedly leapt over the railing during a tour and attempted to steal the butterfly right off the wall. The result was a fracture across most of the right wing, leaving only about half of the formation still attached to the wall. But, at the time, Texas state law only classified the destruction of cave formations as a misdemeanor. The cavern successfully sued and won, and because of this incident, Texas updated Chapter 201 of its Natural Resource Code to list the destruction and theft of cave formations as a felony. So because of that guy trying to steal it in this cave, that's why
the law exists.
That is why the law exists. Dang.
There are some still really great stuff in this room.
Yeah.
We still have our skull, arm, finger, almost clear helectites there. We have a soda straw with helectite at the end of it. Those are fairly rare. Clear soda straws that you can see through here. We have some fish tails, that one and that one. We still have our seahorse right there.
All of this natural?
All of this is
this perfect tunnel.
Yes.
Well, over there it's a little bigger, but this is another thing. I've never seen anything like this.
So this is that process of the acid etching away the limestone, eating it away. Water level dropped, calcite formed on the walls from the surface. Not enough water now coming from the surface to overcome the convection corrosion. And so that has eroded the calcite away.
Ooh, and that's bright.
And welcome to Mexico.